#1 seed.
Pour up that
Two
Baja
teams, though, that
Blast.
are so vastly different in play style.
Yes.
Crazy Racoon have to reset themselves now for a very different foe.
And quickly overlooking, looking through the bans here, right? So it'll be the Diva that is banned by Crazy Racoon early. So that is a hero that
Cassidy
is
Venture.
obviously piloted to great success.
Oh, they're running
and
double
then,
turret.
Like Ash mentioned, still VP attacking that back line, right?
Interesting.
Ooh, Liv, you've got to respect this, playing so close to the front line here. Jagu's able to get in there and just emerge right under the Symmetra. Junbin falls down here, and Virtus.Pro love to play this brawl style. This is really the perfect battlefield for them to begin this series on.
They're totally fine playing this type of style. And for VP attacking that back line, right?
I gotta remember that Venture seems crazy on this map.
Back line, right?
Next time I play this map, I'm
so
just
good
insta-locking
as a duo.
Venture.
You get rid of that Lucio, right? Takes that speed out of the game, and then you can play this like Ramatra type of setup. That VP is totally comfortable doing.
Wholesale changes though for Crazy Racoon, now going over a bit more of a dive look with Hisang on the Farah. This might provoke a change from Virtus.Pro, but for the time being, they're going to try and make this composition work for them.
I don't think they are going to change.
24%, and Junbin's trying to hide back around the corner. A barrier thrown up here. He's trying to
Maybe the Cassidy, if anything, but
Jagu's with a
it's not
Bio-Nade, and
terrible.
that's scary though to deal with the Venture in the
because
front line.
Cassidy's actually good against
On the
Monkey.
way out, Jay was able to
and
find
Fair.
one. A drill rush to gain some height, but eventually Chorong is able to bring the Venture down. Amidst that fight, there was a flip. Somehow VP positioned
somehow they
the point
flipped
for
it.
long enough for Crazy Racoon to reassume control.
Yeah, they disengage their VP, right? And they end up giving up the point, but on a comeback, they're not able to end up flipping it back. They're going to lose a few players here. Just try and not get staggered out. Back to the spawn as Vestola will use that Nemesis form, get that power block up, make it out with his life. So here for VP, an opportunity, right? The Deadeye maybe creates
Crazy
space as
Racoon
you
coming
kind of
in with
move
something to
on
prove,
in.
'cause
And then after that, you're looking at a big orbital raid.
I know they're
potentially from
fucking
Gala.
So
pissed at themselves for losing that last series. So I think they're coming out with a chip on their shoulder.
For Shockwave, really only looking for some damage, and Junbin does chunk him a little bit, but a nano boost now over towards the Winston means that Junbin remains fighting fit. A Bio-Nade connects onto Vestola here, he's getting close to an annihilation, but we'll have to fight without it for the time being. Orbital Ray expires and Shockwave gets picked off. It's a tough ask for the Cassidy to handle the Farah on any map. Jay, we might have to do the heavy lifting in terms of damage in this fight, and he just can't get there. Hisang finds yet another DPS foe. And this annihilation comes a little late in the day, not backed up adequately by support.
And I was wondering maybe if there's like going to be a change here for VP, right? That annihilation comes really late. And this
Crazy
is a
Racoon
very
got 4
difficult
ults.
situation. Okay, so it will be a change.
They're
Okay,
gonna
Maga.
switch.
This is a very difficult situation, like you alluded to, for Shockwave to be
This
playing
tank
into,
switch
right?
looks like.
Farah, Winston on the other side. Winston can obviously cycle through, whether it be a Nano from Shu, a Primal Rage here, or Junbin available, and then also the one-shot capabilities of Lift. It's really difficult to play a hero like Cassie without any mobility into this.
There's no way Junbin's playing like that if he doesn't have a Primal Rage available. Virtus.Pro perhaps should have had a feeling for it. But they're going to see the ultimate drawn out of the enemy tank player, and they are going to be decimated. And the consensus up until this point was that the
Lit popped off
Ramatra
with
comp
the
tends to
overclock.
fare pretty well into Winston in general. But Virtus.Pro are playing mystery heroes right now, trying to come up with an answer, or at least get back to the point in time. Vestola staggers to try and keep his team in the game, but is going to be brought down.
And I wonder if you
He's
swap
saying he's
off
gonna
of
body
the
block that
Cassidy,
door.
right? Just some stagger here towards the end. This will be a round for Crazy Racoon. I wonder if the answer is swapping off, right? Can you have Vestola play like a Maga and maybe with like a Sojourn in the mix, right? Because with that Cassidy, there's no way you're even going to escape the Winston, right? The Winston's going to leap on you.
I mean, Cassidy's pretty good in a Winston. Those right clicks are really strong.
Perk into and select into, so you have the more escapability, but without like a Lucio to get a boop and speed out of the wave, right? You're just kind of a sitting duck there on that Cassidy.
We saw how Crazy Racoon struggled against what Nightmare threw at them, right? Often the hazard comps that gave them a lot of trouble. Virtus.Pro were not the kind of team that we have seen really go in that direction very often, but perhaps there was some learnings to glean from that previous series the Raccoons played, and perhaps that's informed this composition here for Virtus.Pro. Vestola looks like he's going to walk out on the hazard, of course, with this Brig Juno. Let's see how it plays in the hands of the European squad.
I mean,
Yeah,
this is a
Hazard's
much
just,
better composition for
I'm
VP,
thinking
right?
a couple.
Jaewoo on the Tracer can put a lot of pressure onto Lip. He's saying as well, and then also it's a lot easier to keep Shockwave alive.
Surprised Jaewoo's not on
these
the
fights.
Genji.
Jaewoo here just wants to be a bit of a harrying threat, but Junbin's already brought Fixer to bear. He's going to try and wrap around, and Jaewoo, while a standout here, at least over this map so far, has not been able to make the difference for Virtus.Pro. Losing Vestola here, not a good sign for the Bears.
Just a really easy fight there for Crazy Racoon. open things up. I mean, you lose the Brig right away. The Brig is supposed to be that line of defense for like the Juno in that regard, right? And you end up losing the Brig right away, and then everything's just going to start falling apart. This really, outside of the initial fights, Virtus.Pro's been pretty lifeless.
Can they start to make an impact here? Again, that pressure from Jaewoo is going to be ever
it ain't
present,
looking
but
good
Lip
for
doesn't
him so
seem to be
far.
too bothered by it for the time being, especially with Junbin more than happy to address the Tracer threat because he doesn't have a lot of frontline pressure to deal with, and the Hazard will try and circumvent him most of the time anyway. Vistola's gotten over towards the point though here, and you can see Lip peering in from the outside, sees a Bionade of Vistola and Jaewoo duo. The latter who gets brought down. Fixer desperately has to try and jump away, but he's really got nowhere to be, nowhere to go, except down.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to get Crazy Racoon above 50% on the point, right? He's saying every time we've been on board, I don't even know if he's died on the far, right? Just completely uncontested. And I think it's because they're obviously trying to deal with the pressure that Junbin's putting down, Shu landing some bios as well on that follow-up, that you're not even afforded the luxury of putting pressure on the bar in the sky. It's just been a masterclass here from Crazy Racoon early on, and bad sign for VP.
The shockwave hits a rail on him, and I mean, he doesn't really have too much to worry about.
Especially when he's backing Junbin up most of the time. It's going to be a mobile barrage from Heesang. On the move, he's able to take Vistola out of the game, and now he's going to be hunting for more. Virtus.Pro try the Hazard look. Try, I guess, a third different option here on this map, and it still hasn't got them within striking distance of Crazy Racoon. This is
going to be
worrying signs, I think, for the rest of the series.
Well, this is a team that was dominant in EMEA, right? Like, they were fantastic, like undefeated, #1 seed, kind of cruise their way on through. And here at this event, right, they lose to once again, and then now they kind of
once again smash them. Now they're smashed. Crazy
and this start
is
nowhere near.
They look strong against OWCS.
And there's no point even talking about old economy here. It's good as it is for Crazy Racoon because fundamentally they're just so far ahead of the curve here.
Yeah.
Primal Rage going to be used by Junbin. He creates a decent amount of space over towards the bridge side, keeping Virtus.Pro out of the fight. Crucially, Shockwave with that overclock is not able to get in position to.
He still didn't kill him down.
And Lip does not care. Caught inside the downpour, but going to be healed up. It is Shu's attention fully focused on that Sojourn, though.
He did flip the point, though, but
doesn't have the healing to get to the burst damage.
they're going to just come back with fucking overclock and probably get
standing up for Virtus.Pro, and they do have some time now in the sun.
VP does have to use absolutely everything, though, to be able to flip that point. 99 already here for Crazy Racoon. So all it's going to take, right, is Lip. He has a railgun charged up, comes around the corner, maybe lands that one, pops it overclock, kills the target right away. You get a player advantage, and it's GG.
He's looking for a way in here. He really only has to worry about Shockwave. There's no Ana on the enemy side to worry about. And as Lip falling. Good start here. Spike Guard going to be accounting for that kill comfortably. Vistola here with the
now they're trying to do something. Maybe they're waking up a little bit.
He's going to pressure him down though from the air. And Virtus.Pro lose their tank. Not where they want to be right now, especially when Junbin wants to continue to apply the pressure. And the thumb screws are getting tighter. Yeah, well, careful, Jaewoo. Not even on your best day do you want to face Shu like that. Shockwave and Junbin able to clean up, and that will trigger out overtime. Vistola might have the mobility to get here. Jaewoo also is alive for the time being, but it feels like it is a short-lived affair. A very healthy Vistola on the point, though, means that this gets dragged out a little bit longer, but a barrage should account.
Yeah, not healthy anymore.
She hasn't. And now leave Jaewoo, the last player in the sights. VP have the reinforcements they can try and touch here, but they are never going to be at a full 5 at this rate. And that's the overtime expiring. First map comfortably in hand for Crazy Racoon.
Yeah, in that last fight, Junbin jumps in, and he actually just kind of takes position over by that pillar. And Vistola's playing the corner, and he knows Vistola can't really chase because he's going to turn his back, they're going to cross the bridge. But he can't exactly challenge the bridge, right? And even though they end up losing Lip early on, it's a bio grenade from Shu that
maps. We've seen him, kind of made his name on the Sombra, but that was back when she was a very different looking hero. We know, like,
all right, what are we going to see?
End up picking up like a conventional hit scan and just like deliver a Sojourn game that would be reasonable. And we've seen.
Yeah, I figured Sigma.
We've seen the Mei come up here on a couple of maps. I actually think Virtus.Pro liked to do that. Yeah. Jaewoo was playing a lot of Mei here. And I think the idea is that wall does give you some space to sort of regroup.
Tracer Mei yesterday when we watched on this map. Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. It didn't look good for VP. The May walls
looked
like it gave
like the Sigma some
May
time to get
cooldowns back up and
good DPS pick on this
get topped up. But
yeah, we'll take a look here with Crazy Racoon on defense here, kicking things off. They will play a Sigma-based composition.
Both teams running Ana.
Interesting enough, they actually won't combo it with a bat. But Shu's so good on the Ana, and obviously making really big impacts with those bio grenades. you'll keep him
He's
in the
gonna
game.
Sonic
They
arrow and
actually
then switch
will
him,
play a
sure.
Mei of their own. So curious to see. Yeah, Jay
Yep,
will
Mei as
actually
well.
match the Mei. So you'll have the Maze being
Pixel
mirrored
went
here.
Brig, and
they
now
will
the Stola
opt
went
for
to
a
Ram.
Ramatra-based composition into this.
Okay, so VP not going for a Baptiste either, which is obviously curious, but with the Mei, they might want to brawl a little bit more around that orbital ray, and I just think it's hard to go away from the Brig in so many of these situations. But here comes VP regardless. We'll play that poke game early and wrap that first corner. The offensive Mei wall gives them a bit of a screen here to gain some free progress.
He's just going to push
So
him back
try and
a
get
little
a
bit.
pick with
I think
that
Crazy
rail,
Racoon
or
just has to be a little bit worried.
good
right?
icicle right click.
You don't want to allow Vestola to kind of cross that gap, get behind that Sigma shield, but you can't play extremely passive. Jay will stick with
Shockwave
that
and Jay
bio
were both
grenade.
low.
Shockwave takes a ton of damage here as well early on.
Decent progress made for Virtus.Pro without really having to commit, which is a good sign, but at some point,
Yeah, they're getting
the rubber
some
has to hit
ground.
the road here for Crazy Racoon, and they need to find a way in. He's saying caught inside the vortex now, forced to give even further ground now as the kinetic grasp is thrown up. This is Vestola's opportunity to start to come forward. He knows it. He's saying over the top, though, he's able to find Fixer there with a right click. And that has to be addressed here now.
Fixer
Crazy
down.
Racoon have their Mei in the eye of the storm, and he's saying he's able to find yet another kill.
They gave up a lot of
Great
space, though.
CR, and they follow up on it beautifully.
It is a lot of space, though, given up by Crazy Racoon, right? You obviously don't want to brawl out with that Ramatra, but they just kind of fall back and fall back and fall back. That it is a lot of payload progress gained here by VP
How are we looking
early
on
on.
alts?
So although Crazy Racoon does get a fight win, does get
Crazy
a
Racoon
hold,
ahead on
still
pretty much
with over
everything.
2 minutes on the clock. Pretty good rundown there early
Gala
on.
has
There's a real game
orbital
of
ray coming
chicken
up
here
soon.
between the Sigma and Ramatra. Max wants to hold the accretion for when Vestola tries to pop Nemesis form and walk up on him. And then try and get good value out of kinetic grasp outside of that. You might look to try and take the perfect issue. The
They got
lower
the Flux, they got the Blizzard. There goes the Flux.
Power against this Ramatra if you need it, but here comes a gravitic flux from Max. He's caught Gala inside of it. Looking for some follow-up damage, but Gala benefit from some of the distinctual healing from that
Vestola
orbital
down.
ray. Vestola, though, is still going to fall. Crazy Racoon are getting a ton of value out of this poke comp, showing us dimensions to what they can offer as a team with the substitution of the tank, and frozen stiff is Max. Choroki is holding on the orbital ray, pops it now, but
Nice.
it's a little bit too late to save Max's life. Liv's going to try and follow up, though, at least with this overclock, and getting rid of Gala's a great start. It's going to deal with the Brig front and center, but Fixer doesn't have the backup.
And Lip
You
get
have an orbital ray used there for Crazy
Damn.
Racoon in combination there with the overclock and even with the rally running for VP. It is not enough to keep them alive. And now this is where it starts to get dangerous.
coming back
right? It was
with
a really
overclock,
good
though.
start for VP in terms of
They'll have
getting the payload
Annihilation
progress
soon.
all the way to the distance.
Raccoon's
But
getting really close
now
to
you're
anything,
below
though.
a minute, and then you have to make some changes. So Max actually comes out on a Ramatra of his own. So
He probably doesn't feel
Yeah,
like he can
final
get enough
fucking
space
minute,
on the
so-
Sigma
Yes.
on this part of the map. So play something that's obviously just going to match Vestola's ability to plunge into the front line.
an Ana pick here for Gala as well. So you have a change in the back line here for VP.
The Mei wall's way more relevant now.
I'm surprised
Catch
to
out
see
an
him
enemy
switch off the
Ramatra
Sigma.
with that one, and you are in good shape for the fight, but he's able to win the
Ooh.
duel against Shockwave on the left. That is a massive pick. Vestola sees an opportunity now to come forward with the Annihilation,
There's
but Liv gives him
Annihilation.
the respect he deserves. Vestola, though, will still clear the room. He's saying gets brought down as Gala obviously switching over towards the Ana is able to have way more long-range potential. Max, of course, has only just switched to the Ramatra, so Annihilation's not really on the cards. And Vestola threatens to grind him to dust, but he's able to survive, throw up a shield, get the healing. Crazy Raccoon still in numbers of defending.
If you're
He's saying
Crazy
has
Raccoon, though,
Blizzard.
you just need to keep Max alive long enough to get this nano
Oh.
boost in.
There's
the Mei
Not
wall.
able to do it. It's a nice Mei wall there that splits him off. He's
Nice,
saying
they should
Nico,
get
though,
this.
still feel like this potentially is winnable. It's going to be a Blizzard that comes on through. Chorong also gets the benefits of the nano.
Chorong here into the fight, sees Fixer. There's just far too much to look at right now. And you see, if you're playing Sigma there as Max, you're probably less worried about the Mei wall. You're probably
Yes.
playing far back enough that you aren't going to get caught by it, but when you opt into
All right, well, at least for
mirroring
them, they got the
duel,
checkpoint.
You've got to have extra awareness about the potential to be
If
trapped
you get,
away from your
this
team.
map's brutal, man. You get wiped one time, and then they just
So
can hold the
Arisa can also
high
roll
ground and
out a
shit
little
on
bit
you.
with that
Or just go right back down to the
Ramatra,
choke where
and
they
then
were
also
just
Arisa
holding.
really good at taking that space, right? Spear spin, fortify, being able to get
Solo's
alive.
over on the
Third
Arisa
time,
now.
Yes, becomes no, not exactly glass cannon-y, right? But once you use those cooldowns and you don't have them, you're kind of screwed.
You don't have the ability to garner attention, or at least clear the area around you. So Vestola's going to be pretty judicious about those cooldowns now as he moves up under Fortify.
There's a Blizzard.
Oh, Max, that's not good. Okay, knocked to the low ground. VP knows he's going to be coming up behind them or up the stairs, and Max, at least with the speed boost, he's able to get in position once
got
more.
overclocked. He just
Getting
popped
taken
it.
pretty low now, and Nomad form is going to fall to the disruptor shot of Shockwave. And Lip has to give ground. This Orisa is too scary. She's gone golden. And she's going to shepherd the cart forward. Crazy Racoon are going to commit an overraid. They want to try and take the fight for Stola.
Oh, no.
Caught on the other side of his own wall. Dumps back down to the rest of his team as Virtus.Pro have a nano on their Orisa. Pistola's in the thick of things, but does get caught sleeping without a fortifier available in advance. He wants to push up, and yet again, another wall in his way. Terra Surge, Shu tries to get around the corner. It's going to be Lip that gets caught out, though, desperately healing. Coming in for Heesang. Max now has Annihilation. An instant ice block being used here by Jaywoo, but eventually he's going to have to face the music and Shockwave. Picked off by Heesang. And inch by inch, Crazy Racoon are
I thought for sure they were going to get that checkpoint, too.
They've got to stay on the card. Choron goes low. Pistola's still healthy and wants to push in the direction here of this Juno, but Choron's getting healing from Shu in the background.
Oh, man.
And Heesang has the damage with Lip. They finally bring the Juggernaut and Pistola down.
Damn, that's crazy hold.
Have one last chance.
And they end up using the nano boost there onto Heesang because Max has the Annihilation rolling on the Ramantra. Nemesis Form just blocking a lot of that damage.
Last fight, they're coming back with some ultimates, though. I mean,
being able to hit,
if they can even get back up to it, though, that's I don't even know if they can get back up to it.
Range, never under threat.
That's why we were watching Choron just not die.
Yeah.
That's what's brutal. If you get wiped, you got to start all the fucking way down there again.
Right click of the endothermic blaster is huge, but Jaywoo knows he needs to provide more.
Lip down, Gala down.
Catches his opposite number out, so now the healing drastically reduced for Virtus.Pro. Shockwave tries to make up with him with extra damage.
He doesn't have the perk for the fat ass rail, though.
Barely able to stay alive out on the cart.
Damn, they did it.
Their spot well here. Crazy Racoon probably don't have the durability to stall as
nano for Shu coming up.
Can Max stay alive? He needs that nano, but it's just not going to get there in time. Shu can't develop it. And he's way out of the fight anyway.
Huge shockwave popping off.
Yeah, potentially that could have got interesting, right? Nano there for Shu onto Max.
That's crazy that they came back and
Shu also probably
got that, because I thought I didn't even know if they would be able to get back to the fucking
some of these players coming off the spawn, but VP at the final stages yet again gets over the line there. Second checkpoint done here for Virtus.Pro. It feels like to me, Mitch, though, like these tank matchups, and this is the type of style that VP would want to play against a team like Crazy Racoon. I don't want to say they need a map completion. They got to get damn close, though, right? It feels like if they're going to win this map.
They're very short on time, though. Up to the high ground, they look to go again. Pistola is affected by the bionic grenade, but shrugs it off now, drops down. And Gala, Heesang finding these ridiculous picks. He's looking like Backbone out there with his main right clicks, man. It's crazy. Shu brought down, though, by the javelin from Pistola, and he's creating space on the cart now with the Terra Surge. Good damage still. Shu out of the game, of course. The Lip is struggling now. It's Heesang under intense scrutiny in this side room. He's trying to dodge away from this damage and gets his Ice Block cooldown available. Somehow, Choron just pulled 2 kills out of his rear end. And Virtus.Pro have the turn tail.
And Pistola dies quite late there, and this is not a good scenario for VP to be pushing into.
Raccoons has
available,
fucking every
nano
ult
here, Annihilation. Everything lining up well for Crazy Racoon. He's trying to block the doorway. Yeah.
That was cute. Still, Shockwave's able to get away and get a nano, but he might be frozen stiff. He's trying to
How's he not dying?
Down, but
Holy
he's so
shit.
durable, and he's being killed. Finally,
Okay,
he brings Shockwave down, and the Annihilation from Max got a lot of value. Pistola finally has a chance to play Diva, but it's the wrong time.
They got
for
pretty far,
it's
though.
Too late, and Crazy Racoon have brought the VP train to a screeching halt.
I guess for positives on the Virtus.Pro side, right, is you were able to get that first and second checkpoint because at times it did look quite dire. But Crazy Racoon,
that was crazy. He was icicle fucking
be able to
head
take
and could not kill him.
2-0 lead in this series. And
he was getting hella heals.
This is like perfect scenario for VP. These are the compositions that VP probably would like to play. They have a map that they're very comfortable on, right? But still, it doesn't seem to be enough.
It's kind of whiplash for Crazy Racoon. If you think about the previous game and now this one, they've had to basically play completely different styles of Overwatch in order to sort of match their opponents. I mean, it's great to see they got the range, but we're looking for the efficacy, right? We're looking for the effectiveness in these different comps. That's not out of the question here, of course, as it's, look, a decent defensive effort from Crazy Racoon. I feel like it's about on par for what we see from this map.
And this is what VP probably selects this map to really go to on defense. So it will be the Alari BAP backline. Obviously, extremely offensive focus. You're able to put that Alari turret like pretty high up on that building, and that's where like Jaywoo can get a lot of the healing from, right? Playing around that corner, playing right by that turret. So we'll see if they're able to hold, though.
It's kind of a style we've seen.
I doubt he's going to come out on the Zarya.
Used to do it a lot on this map last year. Like play those corners, play high. They even use Life Weaver to try and give Farah like a decent platform to play on. Make it so they don't have to touch the ground. Crazy Racoon. On the attack side here, are they really considering this? Widowmaker here for Lip. This is what I mean about a bit of a weirder pool. He has an incredible Widow, but CR now go to their take on the Sigma comp, right? With Shu on the Ana, is you wouldn't want him anywhere else.
So what's your your thoughts on this? So I actually kind of think this will be pretty effective for Crazy Raccoon because I think there's so well
BAP. I don't know.
They'll be able to eventually. You're banking on being able to get that Maywall and like burn Vesola down right through some of these like healing resources
Pylon
and
down
whatnot
already.
before that far damage really becomes a nuisance, right?
Yeah, VP, what a longer fight. Enough time for Fire to really make it
Oh
there.
man, Vesola's getting melted.
Yeah, maybe too slow. I think like Crazy Raccoon need a pick sort of before Jwoo's able to strike gold like that. Vesola does go down. That is a big deal.
Yeah.
Wolf, that's a pretty dirty one there. Garlemar is stuck here, but he's able to AD strafe away from much of this damage. He's playing so far forward though. And Lip's able to finish the job from that off angle. Now VP.
Yeah, I don't know about the Olari.
It's very awkward because CR are going to stagger them here.
Yeah, and I mean, Jwoo just in the corner, just trying to end up playing his life, and this should be first checkpoint here for Crazy Raccoon. It kind of worked out in the fashion we were talking about, right? As he puts a nice Maywall down, they get a bio onto Vestola, and they're able to take him out while he's playing the Sigma. Jwoo actually did get a kill there onto Shu at basically the same time, but losing your tank, I mean, it's just a brutal type of scenario, right? So now it's going to be Vestola going over to the Ramatra.
This is a weird
comp. Jwoo's over on May
It is
now.
very odd playing like Ramatra,
They're keeping the Olari.
May with the Olari still in the mix, like. I would have expected more BAP, to be honest, if I'm from...
Yeah,
we need to remember to move that damn pylon.
At the start of this round, but never sort of stuck to it. And we thought yesterday when we saw VP, like, why are you protecting...
I think Lip getting that pylon in the first
especially because when we watched VP yesterday, they could have played this comp, but they just decided not to.
Right. Well, Blizzard there creates a lot of space for Hisang, and Lip is able to deal with Vestola again. Vestola's dying so early in these fights. Just the raw poke damage coming out of Crazy Raccoon's comp, which isn't like a dirty, sort of focused poke comp. It has a May in it. Hisang's able to put so much damage out there that it feels like you're dealing with double hit scare.
Not looking good for Virtus.Pro.
What, here, if you're VP, it's pretty late in the game to make some wholesale changes, right? Like, you're just getting your Captive Sun.
And they're about to have Flux.
Olari.
Oh, they do have Flux now.
Dude, you've got to get this around a Sigma Shield and a Kinetic Grasp.
Juno all Lip with the overclock.
Okay, here comes the overclock though. Vestola in a Nemesis form, and that's the timing you save the accretion for, right? Max had it ready, but Vestola was able to avoid it.
Doesn't hit anything.
Okay, Pop, didn't do it. How are you supposed to make it work against this comp? It's so difficult. Orbital range just where it needs to be, but Lip has to clear the area for now. Hisang turns his attention towards Vestola,
I say that and he gets
Nemesis form ready. Gala in the backline, running wild. It's Lip falling to Shockwave in the Sojourn duel. And Virtus.Pro have done enough for now.
Damn, they did it.
That was a fight. If they lose that fight,
they had to win
this
that
map
shit.
is over, in my opinion, as they absolutely needed that. And they get a lot of ultimates out from Crazy Raccoon. So the VP, although 319
that was good for them.
a lot of time
now they can
for
set up
Crazy
here.
Raccoon, VP gives themselves probably the best chance here.
And I'm pretty happy if I'm VP to lean into these 3 ultimates that are about to come online for the really suits this brawl style. You've got the 3 key ultimates for this comp. At your fingertips.
They'll match the Ram as well, right? So the only difference really is that Shu Ana versus the Olari, where, I mean, Shu's so good on the Ana.
Oh, that purple dude.
The Annihilation. He was with the bio. Able to shrug it off at the very least and keep fighting.
That was
Crazy
close.
Can respect this and actually have the ability to disengage. So they've drawn that ultimate out. Now the Blizzard is another issue. Can they get clear of this one? Hisang throws his own Blizzard into the fight and is brought down by Fixer instantly. And Lip has to have ice in the back of his head virtually now, as it's a really uncomfortable angle to play from. With Shu out of the picture, it's done here for the attack side once more.
I'll say VP did a really nice job of keeping Vestola alive there, because the Maywall comes in from Hisang, followed up by the Blizzard, and he's got obviously popping.
So he'll have it back up before the next
block
push.
to try and mitigate some of the damage,
nice
but they're able to keep him alive throughout all of that. So
yeah, I like that hard
plays there from Virtus.Pro, as that knocks about a minute off the clock.
Garland now has a Captive Sun against a Ramatra composition. Much better than having to try and make it work against that Sigma setup. So that could be quite deadly. Shockwave here again doesn't have to commit from this position. A railgun here or there, find critical damage, something that can be followed up on by even the Iliari, or an insta-kill with a headshot like we've seen in the last couple of fights. This is VP slowing the pace of the game to a crawl.
And with that fight win, I mean, by the time this next one kicks off, you've almost burned 2 minutes off the clock.
And he's got the sun.
Everybody splits.
Just looking for a target.
There's nothing with it.
Doesn't find him.
He should have not used that
window,
yellow.
but Orbital Ray is still here for Virtus.Pro. They've still got a lot to work with that one. He's saying gets caught in the
He's
front
down
line.
again.
Shockwave is playing these really tight angles, being very careful to stay out of Lip's line of sight. And this conservative approach to the Sojourn play is really paying off.
But it's
Racoon's
3
gonna
fights
come back with 4
consecutively,
ults,
right?
so.
It's Heesang dying first, then a kill from Shockwave on the Lib, and then Heesang early yet again, right? So VP's burned 2 minutes off the clock.
But Crazy
Relative
Racoon
ease.
have now cycled into the power ultimates, Matt, the ones you want to look for. Max is getting in position for an Annihilation, extends that Nemesis form time. Vistola going to try and reciprocate, but it's Shockwave getting caught by
Annihilation's
pulsar
crazy.
torpedoes, and that Blizzard might just be a little bit late. It comes in at least, allows for the pickup on Shu, but Chorok here is going to be on extra duty. Vistola tries to throw up the Dukes here, but he's going to be under extreme pressure. And when Gala taken out, it's like the rug's been pulled out from under the Ramatra.
Yeah, they held pretty good, though.
Heavily. And there's no guarantee they turn this into a checkpoint.
Right, you're going to get another fight for VP, right? So you have Jwoo switching over here to the Sim. That's going to allow them to like TP past the Maywall potentially. That comes into the mix. And then Vistola going over the Orisa.
Vistola gets the touch. There's the wall. Orisa on her own for the time being. And Vistola needs to stay alive. He's got to hang on. Eventually, Chorok has the damage to bring him down now, and Lip's got a pretty safe spot to play from. This is a very cheesy location to be as a Sojourn, but it's deadly effective, and Crazy Racoon earn themselves the second checkpoint.
Yeah, Vistola just barrels around the corner, right? Just trying to get onto the point.
He's
He's hit with the disruptor shot that sticks to him, follows him there with that Sojourn perk.
Just a rare
They could still win, though. They really realistically only need like 2 fight wins.
Just gets split off by a Maywall, so he just gets obliterated. Has to use all of his cooldowns right away on the Orisa. And now moves back over. Be the Ramatra and May yet again pick up for VP, but VP, they burn a lot of clock there, man. They actually give themselves a chance to hold here.
Heesang almost got caught there. Getting good damage down, but as soon as that bio expires, Virtus.Pro surge ahead, force the ice block out. Good wall for Jwoo, gives him some room to disengage, doesn't catch any teammates on the wrong side of it either. Max is looking for more, but he's at risk of overextending here, forcing Jwoo down. But there's still the objective to pay heed to. That is on the move. One player on the cart right now. And there's a wall thrown up that doesn't do a whole lot for Jwoo. He's still going to be caught between a rock and a hard place. And the ice block clearly wasn't available.
That might be GG.
Split up, they're just in disarray. And Crazy Racoon pounce.
Well, the biggest thing that VP has to their advantage is this high ground, but with Max and Co just rotating around that outside and forcing them down, they steal the high ground there from VP, and they end up taking them out.
No easy games from here on out for Crazy Racoon, but they are a team
if they could have held that first point longer, they could have maybe done it.
The very best in the world at their own game. You can really bank on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be gambling on that one. It's Crazy Racoon here on defense first. They'll actually play a Kiri Ana setup here. At least it looks like on defense. So they'll continue to have Max in the game here to play the Sigma as see how this kind of fares. As I'm curious what we see from Virtus.Pro. VP, few different options here potentially. To go with like a diva, right? They want to get to that high ground on offense. You'll have to circumvent, obviously the Sigma Mitch really good against that diva, right?
Shockwave on the hash.
Constantly chain these accretions, so it'll be VP actually starting off with the Ramatra.
It is so interesting to see a Sigma comp on this map though.
It's not a commonality. You are going to try and control the high ground, and VP don't necessarily have the mechanism to force CR down. Also be able to cleanse that bio off with the Suzu, pretty handy for Gala to have that available. And a Sim TP gets VP in position now to fight for this space. Vistola had Nemesis form and just plucks Heesang out from behind the shield.
Yeah, and the TP up to the high ground from VP is really what allows them to break this type of setup. So you don't play that diva, you still want to access this high ground, you bring in that Sim into the mix. Is really nice strat here from VP.
Now, you put some pressure on Crazy Racoon, force him to drop with his Sigma. A little uncomfortable for Max, but he's got off angles that he's being backed up from. In theory, Limp is on that left-hand side of the back, but Vistola is apparently a counter for him as well.
I like the Ash pick.
Great start here for Virtus.Pro, and they like to slow roll these situations. Losing Fixer, not the end of the world, especially when the follow-up is good. Gala's getting involved with the kunai now, and it's just raw stall for Crazy Racoon.
Yeah, he's saying ice block, stay alive for a little bit longer, but that will be it. So
that was quick.
VP with a really nice read, a really nice strategy early on. That allows him to take that first point with an enormous amount of time. I mean, 5+ minutes.
Hefty time bank, but this is a treacherous part of the map to play. Crazy Racoon over to the Lucio.
Stick on the Symmetra too.
I'll see Shu with that Bio,
attack symmetry
Nano
is
rather ready to
interesting.
deploy in just a moment.
And Crazy Racoon wants to get quite aggressive, right? Bringing Lucio into the mix here tells you they want to use that speed, kind of collapse onto that back line. Maybe they feel potentially that they are quite vulnerable, as we'll see now a Kitsune rush available for Gala in the street. How he opts to end up using it is that it'll be Max opening things up with the benefits of the nano boost. Yeah, so they try and disengage, but they actually end up getting split here. So see Vestola gets pushed into the shop here. Gala actually end up using the Kitsune rush as they want to potentially try and fight this, even being a player down.
Yeah, I mean, Heesung ends up getting a little bit caught out. I think VP were able to disengage with 3 players, but Vestola was so deep.
Heesung's been getting
Gala gets
picked
in there,
early.
Kitsune rush, Suzu thrown down, Ramatra kept in the fight. Vestola's also holding on to an Annihilation with positive tempo. Great sign for Virtus.Pro. Shockwave doesn't have to set up shop on that off angle, but definitely has to put the fear in Crazy Racoon of him turning up there at any time. And this series
about to have Blizzard, though.
still getting a ton of value in this
Virtus.Pro's
part of
about
the
to have
map.
Bob, and they got
also, you have this wall to block,
Annihilation.
potentially like any bios, right? As you'll have a Bob come in here,
The wall
potentially
is so dirty.
from Shockwave, as this has been a speed run so far in favor of Virtus.Pro. He's saying I'll check the Blizzard in there, and that is just kind of thrown deep. Not going to result in much.
I guess he's coming in from the flank there and is hoping to catch, but
that's
Shockwave
two quick
has a sixth sense about it and is already able to coach gun himself away. Some classy
This
follow-up
attack
kills now. That
symmetry
time back
and
is still
Ash
looking
is
pretty
looking
healthy,
good.
folks. 5 minutes here for Virtus.Pro to play. Again, they've managed to
Okay,
set up
he's
a
gonna switch
battlefield that
over
really
to
seems to suit them, and
me
Crazy
as
Racoon
well.
are not succeeding in the mirror.
Seems like having that Baragon really impactful, right? You imagine the Pharaoh would be in play here. Shorong with a double kill on the
man, he got
Lucio.
melted right
As
there.
speed right on in. Able to do that off the rip.
Vestola's been playing pretty far forward, right? It also happened, when they tried to disengage from
slept
the
and just
Nano-Ramatra. Here again it happens. So Crazy Racoon identify a chance for Chorong to use that speed boost and get them a player advantage locally. And it's pretty hard for Ramatra to get people's attention when he's across the map, right? Throw a vortex and that's it.
And now you'll have a match in terms of the Mei. So Jay will move away from the Sim, which we both thought was pretty effective. Curious what type of value you get out of the Mei here.
Man, they got to hold for 4 minutes
You
here.
still have the Ashe in play, which typically you would see the Ashe on defense is lit moving forward with the Nano and the Overclock. It'll be the Annihilation used here by Vestola, just trying to stay alive, a 1-for-1 trade. But typically we see the Ashe on defense.
Yeah, I mean, Liv was able to find himself, though, completely outside of the radius of that Annihilation. And we might see Shockwave, consider a switch here, over towards the Sojourn. I think he's realizing now that Crazy Racoon are leaning into this Lucio look and taking these impulse bursts of speed. He needs a bit more mobility.
Well, the Ashe also with the benefits of the natural high ground on defense
coming
just
up on,
naturally is way better,
Blizzard
right?
soonish, Chorong got
Playing
the
on that
beat.
low ground, there's not really as much of an
Virtus.Pro,
advantage for
they
the Ashe
got,
playing against the
Kitsune
Sojourn there.
rush.
So
And they
you
switch
may
up
as
the
well
They
Simmer,
switched
so
to
you
the
can't
Orisa.
cheese your Ashe up there now if you're VP. Onto the Orisa as well. Good at playing these corners, in fairness. Will dissuade Max from getting too close in many of these situations. There's going to be a Kitsune rush now to start the fight of Vestola again. Very quick to get into the front line. He's really become quite the aggressive tank player over his tenure. He's saying he has to try and double back for that health pack here and is holding onto a Blizzard. Should Virtus.Pro overextend? For now,
Slinging
though,
them fucking icicles in there.
He's saying aware of players up there on the periphery, but he's focusing towards Shockwave in that backside. Sound barrier now means Crazy Racoon can be that much more aggressive, so much so that Max makes the pilgrimage to the backline of VP. Pluck Shockwave out of their number. And that's a decent use of the sound barrier here, as Crazy Racoon should be able to lean into another defensive hold.
Oh, it'll be a Blizzard here used by Heesung as well, as they want to get some of these players. They're just hanging out here for Virtus.Pro. Dude, the aggression that Crazy Racoon plays with there is kind of wild. In the sense that they let Heesung be the one who kind of duels with Vestola on the payload, as Chorong uses the speed to just use Max like a battering ram towards that back line. We see it a little bit from Heesung's POV, where they kind of go around that
4 minutes,
with the
now they're down to 2.
and they just shoot towards Gala and Fixa. Deep splits off that back line from the rest of VP, but he's saying in the rest of Crazy Racoon doing a nice job staying alive, preventing that payload from moving forward.
Man, I tell you, if Shockwave is in position to follow up on that javelin, that's a kill. Okay, awkward. Jaywu now trying to go for the Blizzard, doesn't at least get it deployed, but Shockwave is going to play away from it as Crazy Racoon barely get caught up in it. And even if they do, the follow-up isn't really there. Gala down, Terror Surge used, but Vestola's getting booped around the place, buffeted on all sides by the frosty winds and this frigid defense.
I think they're going to switch off Orisa,
Crazy
actually,
Racoon,
too.
more than happy to adapt to the Tundra.
Yep, back
I feel
around.
like the faster the pace of play, the better this is obviously going to be for Crazy Racoon. As Right there, now you lose that.
Virtus.Pro's coming up on
Genji, right? It feels like
on
we're just
beat.
kinda
They got
playing
fucking Kitsune Rush. They're coming up on overclock.
Now we're back to
They gotta make something happen with that shit.
Max here doubles back. Has an opportunity to throw a Vortex down. It's going to be yet another Kitsune Rush here for Gala. Fixer holding onto the sound barrier. Vistola can't get out of the blizzard. It's devastating.
Oh, the
VP spent everything. But
And the
Vistola
beat
is
was
just
late
around
too.
the corner. Line of sight block there for Fixer. He's going to wish he had that one back. But now with only a minute left
that's
to play,
worst case
Virtus.Pro
scenario.
are running low on options.
Now all they got is
Clearly,
overclock.
The nerves starting to depart from them. As Crazy Racoon have gotten only more comfortable over the course of
Shockwave's
this
got to
round.
fucking carry hard with this
Like a
overclock.
second or two light there from Fixer as ends up dropping it. Vistola would already hit by the blizzard,
switch over to
already
Zenyatta
basically
Ana.
dead. As this is massive.
they get
though.
Chorong,
Fixer
though.
over to the Zen, able
And
to
he was
pick up
about to have
Chorong.
beat,
Chorong
too, so
playing
that's
quite
actually-
aggressive. He's almost got beat, so massive pit.
Great option against Crazy
Lucio's
Racoon. Who don't
gonna
have
be
a lot of
back fucking
backline
quick as
pressure
shit,
with their
so.
DPS. They
But
walk
Solo's
up
already
speed
almost
boost
dead
like they've
again.
done in the past, but that's a scary idea. Especially when your frontliner gets hit with a Discord orb. Another
he's
great
sitting down.
pick from Fixer. This is good for Virtus.Pro now. They've generated some momentum. He's saying out of the game. Shockwave
Chorong
now
back
going to
with the
double
beat.
down with an overclock as Max is.
Oh,
This
fuck.
is how you do it. Without a Genji or a Tracer,
Oh.
your Ramatra has to be the dive.
There they
And that
go,
was a
dude.
sound barrier from Chorong. Didn't exactly catch to see
Nice shot.
how many targets it actually
mean,
All right.
hit. I mean,
Did it hit Max?
I don't even think so. I mean,
That's the problem.
Max was extremely low right away. It seemed like maybe that was kind of the idea, is to connect with that
Next
sound
switch
barrier
over
on
to the
him.
Diva.
I love the
He's
use of
staying
the
over on the
forward yet again.
Sombra.
Fixer hears that there's
This
a
is
Diva
last
switch
fight,
now
so.
and knows he can farm Inspire procs off
Overtime.
of Max. So now comes out on the brig. Jay-Woo's dealt with Heesang now.
Jay-Woo
Tracer
needs to
switch
build
with
his
Crazy
blade
Racoon.
quick
They're
as
trying
fuck
everything
with his nano
to
blade.
hold Virtus.Pro up. But VP now
I don't know if they're gonna hold the
send up one
nano,
of their
though.
nostrils, they're going
They might
for
just-
it. They're
yeah,
gonna
they're just
play
gonna check
outside
it
the
out.
Annihilation once more, and Dusty and Nano Jay
They nanoed
coming in his
the-
direction.
nanoed
But
Jay,
Jay was
yeah.
not able to build a blade off that ultimate. So he'll have to go for it after the fact. Gala's ultimate now deployed. Jay-Woo still gets in
Blade's
the
about to
thick of
come
things,
up.
and Shu gets picked off in the
Oh,
front
if he doesn't
line.
go down.
Venture for Heesang. We've
the
basically
blade.
seen every hero in the game so far.
Here it goes.
Out of the blade.
Nice.
Jay-Woo finally develops it and uses it to seal the
They
deal.
got it, dude. That's crazy.
VP, I mean, they get obviously.
Man,
this
they
third
had those first
checkpoint,
two caps
but
so fast, dude.
Considering how much time they
At least
had,
they got
right?
the-
I mean, they take that first checkpoint.
at least they got
have
the
like
final
5 minutes
cap,
on
but
the
man, they
clock,
coulda-
get checkpoint 2. They have
they
like
coulda
almost
got out with
4
some time
minutes
if they coulda
on the
pushed that
clock,
third
and then
point
it
like
gets
they did the first
dwindled
two.
down into OTs. Man, it feels like so many hero swaps from both sides there towards the end of the game.
Oh, and we're trying to keep up with it, right? As the action is going. I think that's probably one of the few situations where the Zen switch makes sense when you're going up against a relatively slow comp without like a flanking DPS. And the strategy for
Chorong's
Crazy...
their flanking DPS.
Right, well, no, the flanking DPS
Yeah.
is Max.
Yeah, with the assistance of Chorong.
Yeah, which is bizarre. So, I mean, I think Chorong's beat needs to hit onto Max there, but they are just using the
Yeah.
Ramatra to run it down. Crazy Racoon really embracing the rush approach to this Ramatra setup, and on defense, like you see, it pays off. Virtus.Pro realized they couldn't really play that slow roll game they were looking to after a while. Now Crazy Racoon go on the attack side. A Lip Echo would be a little... I would expect... You know what? We'll see.
Yeah. See what happens.
But
Obviously,
you talked about the defensive Ashmat, and that's what Shockwave's looking for here.
Yeah, being able to kind of create that space, that high ground, right, on defense. This is where Ash can definitely shine. So you will also have that brig on a backline, like you were talking a little bit about, but more from the Crazy Racoon side.
Yeah.
But VP will end up running it.
Decent option, I think, if you're maybe expecting Max to try the Diva again, or you're dealing with Genji. All very reasonable. Crazy Racoon don't have a Sim TP to assume high ground control for their Ramatra, so Heesang kind of has to go ahead and pave the way.
It's going to be like Heesang and like Shu potentially, right?
Oh, they just walk up. Just walk up.
And they're running
Oh,
it fast as well.
Pistola, corner to corner. And out of the backline, Max goes. This has been the modus operandi for Crazy Racoon so far.
Down.
But they've had to
Fix it
keep
down.
Chorong up for this. So that's the speed that allows them to maneuver into such positions off the table.
Yeah, that was really nice. It doesn't exactly work out in the end there for Crazy Racoon, but we see it from Max and Chorong's POV. They get Max up to that high ground. Chorong actually speeds him around. And what's going on at that time is Heesang on the Genji is up in that opposite window. Gets a TP there from Shu, and that's how they try and collapse on that high ground. But VP able to live on through
Well,
it.
they're holding good so far.
It's looking pretty good here for VP. Able to sit back on this now. Shockwave is going to be pretty hard to pressure, especially with Crazy Racoon going off the Genji. Now just really want to try and gum the works up with for Vistola. And a main wall to catch him out on the high ground could be the ticket. Notice how he'll probably play differently seeing this. Respects the pressure coming in, throws a Vortex down, knows that Max again has gone into his backline, and he can't do much about it. Gonna get buffered around, is hoping for healing at some
point.
point, starting to call for it, I'm sure, but it's chaos in the backline of VP. And Vistola doesn't get the help that he needs there.
Well, I mean, Max just kind of speeds by him, and I guess the idea from Vistola potentially is like they're not going to use the Maywall in that situation because they're also Maywalling Max off, right, from the rest of the squad. So if I can just occupy that space, but still just too much damage coming on through.
Still Virtus.Pro though, having to come back into the fight. Chorong will go down. Vistola has to be coming up respawn pretty soon, and Nano over on the May. Might have been the ticket for Virtus.Pro, but they're running out of time now. And Vistola's back in the fight, but losing your Armatra at the beginning of this engagement is sometimes too much to come back from.
Yeah.
Once again, Max gets into the backline, ties him up, denies the resources from Vistola.
Yes, Crazy Racoon can play with so much more pace here with that Lucio and the Kiri in the mix, right? Gala would use like the bio grenade, right? Maybe then you created a little bit of advantage there. It just gets Suzu'd off, and then you just kind of keep on moving forward there for Crazy Racoon. And now, I mean, you stick with this Ashe here on defense. You still have some of that high ground, but you're going to have to make those like dynamites and just the overall damage, like the healing pressure, really make an impact. Yeah. Or else you might as well switch to the Soldier.
It's quite effective, I think, against the Lucio Kiriko.
Yeah. He's probably going to bob and then switch.
You can Suzu that if you want to. It's an option.
Yeah, these kills come through so fast.
A lot of ults on both
teams. I'm not exactly sure you can play like that.
Blizzard here. Vistola is already kind of committed to the fight now as he's going to deploy that one shockwave caught just on the edges of it, and he's able to bring him down. Now Max so frozen solid. He tried to go for the annihilation, and Blizzard is still the perfect counter to a Ramatra in that ultimate form. Nice fight for Virtus.Pro. A huge stop here, especially with Crazy Racoon investing Blizzard beat. And the annihilation.
Honestly, I was a little bit worried for Virtus.Pro with how that started, right? Blizzard, annihilation, rally thrown in, and they get picked first, but the kill that's massive is the one onto Max. They get rid of Max, the sound barrier comes down from Chorong, not able to keep him alive, and that allows VP to flip it.
Vistola here, not quite sure where to find himself at the moment. Decent sideline still for Gala. Maywall thrown up as well by Jay, who just faults it, tries to take it a very aggressive fight on Shockwave. The Virtus.Pro love to be the defenders in these situations. That Mega is not ready for Heesang yet, so he's very, very low in that side room. Shu desperately stretches himself thin to get there for his May, but Max didn't have the help he needed.
Back it out.
Starting to look good for VP, right? 2 fight wins consecutively. You can move up to this choke. You can start to control this area, especially with those May walls, right? Very difficult to dislodge the defenders.
Racoon does got the Cine Rush, though. Virtus.Pro's got Nano.
Vistola here wants to draw a front line pretty far forward, but Crazy Racoon making an entrance from stage left. Pushing on him, Shu now going to throw a Suzu down to make sure that they're not hit at all.
He goes down with
a nice bio come down from Gala. He sees a Suzu used early and says, this is perfect for me. Virtus.Pro with the player advantage. Gala under some degree of pressure, but Max just can't quite get to that backline yet again. Great fights here for Virtus.Pro. Heads up from Gala.
Looking good.
Yeah, and he's chucks in the Blizzard there towards the end. I wonder if potentially a swap here.
Rex is about to have Annihilation.
Chorong's do you consider
not too far from B. But they're probably going to trade Beat for the overclock.
Shu will actually go and play Ana, so you'll ditch the Kiri, you'll play a Ana of your own. You're still going to keep that
overclock, Blizzard, Annihilation, and they got Rally already. So it's looking good for them.
He's going to have a Blizzard ready in no time. Solo aware there's a disruptor shot behind him now. Vortex thrown down. Wall's going to block his retreat. Slept for the time being. Eventually, surely, they're going to do something about the Ramatra because Vistola is going to have an annihilation here. Crazy Racoon choose mostly to respect this overclock, but Heesang's got nowhere to go.
Yeah, he'd use a Vice Block already as well.
Great May Wall comes out. Heesang's still alive somehow, but Jay was going to commit a Blizzard now. And finally, the May is conquered. That's enough for VP for the time being. Crazy Racoon need to wait until all their pieces are on the board.
Yeah,
down to a minute, dude.
Pushed up there, Heesang,
and he gets Rally and Annihilation.
When Shockwave's using that overclock, has the ice block,
switching over
and then at that point, VP knows he's dead to rights, right? You can actually use that
Chorong has B,
wall over by the choke.
Max has Annihilation.
Right. It's impossible to get that May out.
Blizzard over the top of the wall there. Vistola aware that Max is still working towards his backline. Tries to throw up the Dukes here inside that Nemesis form, but he is quite low. An Annihilation, he knows he has it, but he can't make use of it safely until now. Jamie was hoping to pepper him down with some of those
Heesang goes down though.
Max's Annihilation though is just disengaged.
They got Nano and Beats still.
Heesang is out of the game. Tries to come in on his vaunted Echo pick, but it's not enough to make a difference apparently, as the whip shot accounts for him. Buy-in for Vistola, laughable here as he knows
they got Nano, Virtus.Pro has Nano, Rally, and
Annihilation. And you have the Annihilation Nano combination.
Lip's about to have overclock though, and they have Nano. They're going to Nano overclock probably.
They've got everything. Beat here has been used for Crazy Racoon. It's time to go.
No, they
Max is the one
nanoed,
against the nano.
Max.
He's looking to the back line, but of course, the perks there for Gala. He himself
Oh,
is
he's punching the
nanoed.
fucking shit out of
Point down
him,
on
though.
Max, and he's eventually able to finish him off with a force palm. But Shu and Heesang are out of the fight, and there's nobody to touch the card.
VP did it.
Good
That's
looks
huge
here
for them.
Virtus.Pro. This is the kind of game they want to play. Slow, steady.
They needed
Bleed
that.
your opponent out over time. It's a war of attrition that the Bears know how to win.
Yeah, it's a type
Per hero on this particular map.
But I like a lot of players on a lot of teams, so it's hard for me to really like
as they are getting ready. It is match point
pick a favorite
for Crazy
team.
Racoon.
But I like once again just because I like Tongjiao Spark.
Just a second. For all the action, I'm going to send it over to Matt and Mitch.
Back when I used to watch like Overwatch League and
Both
stuff.
back
So.
combatants here trying to target some
My
of the
favorite team
better
is Florida
heroes
Mayhem, but they were
from
my-
the other
probably
side.
my
Strategy
second
coming into
favorite
this map. Ana, of course, taken away from Shu, and that pesky Ramatra from Vistola is
But I
off
like
the table.
Heesang, I like Junman, I like
no surprise,
Chorong
man,
because
here to see
Chorong
Winston
was on
versus
Mayhem.
Diva. Crazy Racoon and Virtus.Pro, who are fighting to stay alive in his Champions Clash, are going to go at it here on Esperanza.
And then of course I like
I'm
Sugar Free and
curious in your
stuff. So.
opinion.
There's
what
players
do you
on like
think
every team
the
I like.
band's
Honestly.
favor, because like VP's totally fine.
I'm a fan
playing
of all
this
of them.
Diva, like the Ramatra is something even in map number 1 that he really didn't seem comfortable like going up against that Winston with, right? Where getting the Ana.
Oh, yeah,
out
Shu's
feels
great.
like it's a
He's the
little bit
best
more of a
Ana for
win
sure.
here for VP.
Quite possibly.
Dude's fucking insane.
Shu, of course, on this Juno position, which is fine, but it's a little bit hard to kind of have Junbin get max value out of that orbital ray at the best of times. Heesang, though, of course, has to respect the Diva. As soon as he pokes his head up, it's going to be whack-a-mole for Vistola.
I also don't feel as terrible about playing the Cassidy
So we
here
got
because you have the
Farah,
Diva frame with that
Sojourn,
defense matrix able to aid up some of the
Winston.
damage of the Borrow rockets that come down.
And you also don't have a lot to pair in terms of dive with Junbin, right? Crazy Racoon are actually
What do you think
playing
about
a
the Cassidy
comp
pick?
with a dive tank, which is an interesting look. So it's tough to overwhelm the
I haven't seen
defense there.
Cassidy work out at all
When
for
you combo
anybody
like a
today.
bio-grenade into the back line, right? And then
But
Junbin follows it
I
up,
think
but
he's
not
pretty good
having
into
that, extra layer
into Winston
makes it a
'cause of the
little
right
bit difficult,
clicks.
right? You're relying on
Like
some
when he
of that
jumps
poke
in, he
damage
just
coming
fan
out
the
from that
hammer.
Aura. And I mean, there it is, taking out Jaewoo, but coming in and then
And I guess it
following
kind of
up
helps out with
Winston.
the fair as
It's
well.
funny, Crazy Racoon have the dive sense, but they do want to play an extended neutral fight just to allow Heesang to get that incremental value over the course of the game. And there it is again. Virtus.Pro, this has been dragged out here. Crazy Racoon do want to start to turn this into some push progress, and they've done so here. A stagger on the Diva as well is going to be insult to injury for Virtus.Pro, who lose the first fight.
It's like almost like a 2-minute neutral fight there mid-map.
Perfect for a fire.
Good first fight for them.
Yeah, not a lot going on there, and eventually Heesang going to find that damage on the Farah.
Yeah, it's hard to find an
Mountain
answer
time,
to
baby.
the
He's never truly dead.
fair, honestly.
So again, obviously on this kind of map,
They've been kinda terrorizing them with Farah the whole series.
regeneration when you're on the bot. There's a question, I think, of where the cage fight is used to try and catch Junbin out if you can.
But it's like because Deadeye is such a
Deadeye's
shit
shockwave.
ult, and his perks suck.
Respect,
Cassidy
of
got
course,
the worst
by
fucking
Crazy
perks in my
Racoon. That's going to
opinion.
expire now. It's a concussive blast comes in from me saying just to keep him honest. And here's that dive component. So you still got to respect the Winston if you're Cassidy.
Yeah, I think they're gonna switch off. I haven't seen it.
It just still seems
I haven't
like
seen it work
this
out
kinda
at all
shades
today.
back to map 1. They just seem to have no
I think you're better off still just going Sojourn and trying to get him,
threat
kill the Pharaoh with the
against
rail.
this Farah.
Yep, that's what they're gonna
Like
do.
that was kind of what ends up unraveling map number 1 for VP.
I mean,
and at least here at the start on Esperanza,
Vistola's gonna switch over to,
it's clearly an issue.
It's hard to see
Maga.
where you would want to play Cassidy against Sojourn and Winston, right? Just in general. So I think this
Raccoon pretty much has
Shockwave is
every
probably
ult,
better.
too.
Can obviously harness that high ground control a little bit more with an extra bit of mobility available to you. Threat, of course, with overclock and an enemy Winston wants to dive. And of course now, with this Malgan look, you have a great use
Jaewoo
case
can do
with
with
that
this
orbital
pulse.
ray.
Oh, he whipped
Pulse
it.
from there for Jaewoo doesn't quite connect, and Heesang already deals with
big
Vistola.
barrage.
That's tough for Gala, whose orbital ray just doesn't have enough time to get going.
And I guess there's not really like, could you match a Farah, right?
Not
In
looking
theory,
good
like,
for
if you're
Virtus.Pro.
VP, at least Heesang would have to respect the opposing
Oh,
Farah.
that's a late
like,
kill on Pixel,
putting
too.
down damage. It would give you some type of poke and response, but yeah, this has just been all Crazy Racoon early
I
on.
feel like we so rarely see teams opt into Farah mirrors because it can feel
Yeah.
like a dice roll when you're trying to shoot that enemy Farah quite often. It has a lot to do with like who has better position to play
Right, so
from.
now they do actually end up matching the Farah.
Okay, Jay was going to go for it. Does this come in a little bit too late? We've got to triple digits already of a Crazy Racoon, and
Yep.
oh god,
That was a nice
there goes
shot.
Jaewoo.
Yeah, I think you're better, instead of playing Cassidy, I think you're better off going
Nailed by a
Sojourn and
railgun.
just trying to
And they're
rail
gonna
their
keep the pressure
ass.
up. You know, Crazy Racoon, when they have that edge,
Damn, bro, they might
Gonna try
full
and
cap
take a
this
mile.
shit. They're fucking just
and this fire
rolling
has
them.
been electric for Heesang. Just Well, Crazy Racoon
Yeah, I think it
needed
was
to secure
their pick.
what could be a very
Because they
quick
lost the
match.
last one.
And Jamie was probably like, well, why can't Shockwave do that? He's like, I go on far, I turn the corner, and I just get domed.
They're just getting
by the
fucking
Sojourn on the
steamrolled,
opposite
though.
side.
It's like that. We're going to have a very quick Esperanza at this rate, folks. Less than 5 minutes elapsed
They
already.
got a contested.
Crazy
Damn, they went over to
Racoon
Widow
knocking
trying to get a
on the
pick.
doors. Someone's turned up the heat here, and the Polar Bears just can't hang. Pistola going to fall now into a primal race for Junbin. It's a very sad-looking rally after a very sad-looking orbit array for Virtus.Pro. Desperately, they're trying to dig their heels in here in Hangzhou.
Yeah, I think that's
and their
it,
final
dude.
moments are now being shown for all to see. Pistola steps up here with a cardiac overdrive. But
That was
cardiac
brutal.
arrest. And Virtus.Pro have been vanquished. And Crazy Racoon,
They got fucking rolled,
chip on their
dude.
shoulder the size of South Dakota, have got more work to do in this lower bracket.
But it just felt wrong, I think, for Crazy Racoon to go home this early in the tournament. This
Hey,
is
at
a
least they
team
took
that
one map off them,
we
right?
fully expect to go deep into this event.
You gotta take
into
the little
play
victories where you can
tomorrow.
get them.
And VP just happens to be in
least you
their
know you're
way
capable of-
on their path to
of
do
beating
so.
them,
and I think
you know.
VP, you'll look back at this series and the Circuit Royale, like if you win that, right,
Look.
you give yourself at least a 5th gamer here potentially.